Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mindful Initiative podcast. I think would be an understatement if I say that it's a privilege and honor to have the model living yogi, the mystic man, Sri M with us for our interview.
Each is a different flower. So idea here is not to make all roses into marigolds or all marigolds into roses. Roses should be allowed to become good roses, and the marigold should be allowed to become a good marigold. People have this problem that you sit down and meditate, you're mindful of the inner. But when you come out, you're not mindful of your behavior. If these don't go together, it's not going to happen.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Usually when I interview people, my first question is regarding their upbringing, and most of us have learnt about your upbringing through your book.
Yes.
That you grew up mostly in Trivandrum and were born in an Islamic family.
Yes.
But you had certain experiences. Your grandmother told you a lot about some Sufi saints and their stories.
That's right.
Now, my first question is around when all that was happening, you were such a young child.
Yes.
Was there any confusion or fear in your mind when you were in two very contrasting faiths, two very different but somewhat similar faiths as well? What was that like?
Well, that didn't occur to me at all. I mean, fear of belonging to another faith and then going, that never bothered me. First of all, the society in Trivandrum in those days in which we lived was quite open, and it was not like orthodox. There was a time in Kerala passed through orthodoxy, but that time it was kind of weaning away. And so I didn't have, plus the fact that my parents, my father especially, was quite egalitarian and global in his outlook, because he is one of the early graduates from the Maharaja's College, Trivandrum, and his subject was philosophy, and Malayalam was his sub-subject. So from childhood I have seen so many books. Like, in fact, the first time I heard of, read and understood the Gayatri Mantra was from his table. There was a small book by Swami Chinmayananda called Japa Yoga and Gayatri. So it was not that bad, as it could have been. My mother was not orthodox, but she didn't know anything about all this. But then there was this factor. She loved me more than anything. So whatever I did was okay.
And mothers are like that. Yeah. So contrasting that to when you became a father, you had a family, you had two wonderful young children.
Yeah.
And when you had the opportunity to bring them up, and you and your wife, how was your upbringing for your children any different than your parents? And the reason why I ask that is because the times are different, and a lot of us, I have a very young daughter, and a lot of our listeners do have kids as well. So I think that's one question that has been on my mind.
Yeah. Two factors here. One is that till they reached, say, the age of 12th standard, first they were studying in a completely rural school, very close to Madapalle, but in Andhra Pradesh, in Royal Part.
In Rishi Valley?
No, the David Horsburgh School, it was called the Neil Bagh School. A rural school in the heart of the village. 10 years I lived there. I took it over and ran it for the Krishnamurti Foundation, one of the rural schools from Rishi Valleys. So they grew up in a very free atmosphere out there. And from childhood, they have been seeing me doing yoga, meditating, reading, and so on and so forth. And some of the people whom today have become hardcore, I would say, followers or disciples, whatever you want to use, they had already started trickling in Royal Part. So they have some kind of a background. But Sunanda and I, my wife and I, we insisted that we will not put them into any kind of forced structure. They need to wake up. They need to understand why we are doing this. So it was always an open discussion. Neither have they gone to temples nor have they gone to mosques. No, but I wouldn't say that they have no respect for that. They would go, but there is no inclination to do that. It was more inner than outer. So that was how it was. Then they went off to the Rishi Valley School, and their mother was teaching there literature. So they were there. And I was wandering, as usual, here and there. I got this place here. What you see is a modified place now. It was very small. Nobody used to live around because these Lombardi tribals live close by. They're considered a dacoits and so on. I never labeled them, so I'm okay. So we started the school for the Lombardi kids, actually. So they had a freedom to learn, to read, and probably in those years people would think they were exposed to Krishnamurti. Yes, they were, but they were kind of, children rebel when too much of things happen. So they were not exactly like, see, there are two kinds of people who listen to Krishnamurti, appreciate Krishnamurti, and make some points, though you may not agree with certain things. That's one side. There's another core called the Krishnamurtite. This guy will not shift here and there. Luckily, did not become Krishnamurtites. And Sunanda was never, anyway, she comes from a Saraswat Brahmin family in Udupi. And her parents were not so orthodox, but her setup was like that. So this is how the children grew up.
So they were mostly in an open environment, believing more going inside than just being outside or looking formal schooling, which most of us have gone to or at least looked after. Right. I think that prompts another question regarding an inner self. So we say that the self or knowing yourself is very important, right? And I think that's something, yes. Yeah. But then we say that ego is not.
Okay.
And ego is part of our mind or manas in a way of the way we understand it in philosophy.
Okay.
But in the process of knowing self, this ego becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. How do we disassociate the two?
I wouldn't say that it becomes bigger and bigger in everybody. We can't make a sweeping statement out there. But, yeah, you're right in many cases, because the inner self that we seek somewhere along the line, because of human self-centeredness, gets mixed up with the other self. The Sufis call it the commanding self, which is many times we do things even without knowing that we are actually being commanded to do it, subconscious. So if we can distinguish between the two and see what is this which is trying to propel your ego and what is the other which is going to take us inside. Luckily for me, Maheshwarnath Babaji, my guru, well, he was like, he didn't let anything go without going into the core. So from the beginning, he put this in my mind. Watch out. The inner self, to find the inner self, this self of yours, it shouldn't become like more and more hard and strong and gather. It should disintegrate. If it disintegrates, then the other self reveals itself. This kind of unconscious merger between the two. It's like saying, Aham Brahmasmi. Now, this is a profound statement. I personally think nobody should say this easily or at least openly, because it's an experience. It's something where you reach, where you understand this self. What happens then? Then people notice there's something in this guy which we can't understand, some energy, some whatever, because you're touching the root. And then they start projecting things and falling into feet at this or that. And then if you're not careful, Babaji always said, it doesn't matter what others think about you. Let them think what they want. Anyhow, they can't figure out. Let them think. The moment you begin to believe what they think, you're doomed. He actually said, kichad mein phas jaoge. So I've been very careful. The result also is, the other side is, that I see some of these teachers, spiritual teachers, I don't like to name anybody, but slowly they begin to think that when they say Brahman, this is the Brahman. No. So this is how I have tried to keep it at bay. It may be made easier for me because I'm a married family man, while a sannyasin doesn't have the advantage of being tested, nor does he have the advantage of somebody pulling you down and saying, look, these are facts. Look at what you're doing. They don't have, unless they have a guru who points it out to them.
Absolutely. I think that's what I was trying to understand as well. I think you are enlightened and you are so aware. So I don't think it's for you, but I think for many of us who face this problem of distinguishing between, where should we draw a boundary. And I think that I would like to read something from one of your books that you had written, and I think I would like you to expand, even though you have mentioned this in the book, but I would like you to hear from your mouth. So if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you say that a well-known statement in Ishavasya Upanishad is, he who worships ignorance enters into darkness. And that is very clear. Everyone thinks so highly of knowledge that this statement is easily understood. We therefore applaud it. But then rishis posit a paradox. He says, and he who worships knowledge enters into greater darkness.
It's a bombshell.
It's a bombshell. And it is a paradox. It is something against what most of us are doing. We're going after knowledge and knowledge and knowledge. And I would love if you can explain this paradox, and why is it by gaining knowledge we are entering more darkness?
A couple of points. One is the personal point, which is, you'll notice that people who enter, who kind of worship knowledge is most important to them, some of them become their egos get very blown up. That is one thing. And the second thing is, they have so much information gathered from the textbooks and so on, that there is no space in the mind for the reality to come into being. Even if there is a small spark of divinity, immediately they define it with all these things they have stuffed in. They have no way of finding out what it is. This is one of the reasons one is warned. This you can get rid of if you are aware of this happening. It's not that. The second thing is quite metaphysical, because you see, this is personal. The other, when we say knowledge, I need to acquire some knowledge. I don't know something. I don't know about this microphone. I need to acquire. I have the desire, suppose, to acquire. And then I start working on it. Now, at that point, when I'm understanding it, it is not knowledge, it is understanding. It is not intellect, it is intelligence. Diyo yona prachodayat. Stimulate mind. Nobody said not to put your intelligence into cold storage. It is the intellect which begins to post that it is the best. And now Upanishads itself throws that out by saying, among other things, chakshushana pashyati and so on, says, yan manasana manyute, that which even the mind, ordinary mind, cannot conceive or touch. That is the truth, nothing that you worship here. Nedam yat idam upasate. Sweeping statement from Kena Upanishad, from the Samaveda. So it's there, the points, the seeds of this thought were already there. Okay, now we bring it to one more connecting link, why Upanishads probably said so. And that is, so you acquired the knowledge of the microphone. Now when I say, I want to, which means what? Which means the idea of the microphone has gone into my brain in the form of memory. This is what I mean by knowledge of the microphone. It's a tiny cubby hole somewhere where it sits. And any time I want, I can open it, open the drawer and, I know about the mind. Now, that truth the Upanishads are talking about is not something which can be by-hearted and set up in the memory. That is a different... Smriti you can, not Shruti. So, Shruti is instant. And Isha Vashmidam Sarvam, now it pervades everything here. Not that I know that it pervades, it is written that it pervades, it's pervaded long ago and it is still stuck there. No. So it's an immediate experience. And if it is an immediate experience, then it cannot be part of our memory, because all memory is in the past. You cannot think of any memory in the present. Every memory is in the past. Therefore, that truth which we think we know is in the past. It's a memory. It's not I hope I'm trying to make myself ask. Sometimes you come across the Upanishads, the Rishi saying, the teacher saying, Navidmo, Navijanimo, Yathayatat, Anushishya. I don't know how to put this aloud to you because he's finding it difficult in the same way, but we're trying our best. So when this is understood, then you know that all the knowledge you have gathered, it may be useful at some point to reach there, but it is redundant as far as the reality is concerned. Reality, it is not even staying in one place. It's not like a stagnant pool with breeds mosquitoes. It's a flowing river. It's like the Ganga. The first meditation that Babaji taught me was, do nothing, open your eyes. I said, but Babaji, I want to meditate, open your eyes. Why? What should I do? From Arundhati Gufa, you can see the Ganga flowing. Watch. Your mind slowly, you realize why he said that. Your mind is slowly beginning to flow and not get stuck anywhere. So this is one important factor in understanding the truth. If you think the other way around, then I think we are entering more darkness. I think so.
I think that begs another question, which is around Shraddha. You talk about Babaji, and I think in the Yoga Sutras it's mentioned Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Pragya, Purva, Ketaresham.
Right.
And Shraddha is the beginning. But the contemporary world that we are living in, that total devotion is getting somewhat diluted because of the knowledge that you talk about.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I'll give you one example. Take the case of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. No knowledge of conventional kind, anything. I think that was not a disqualification, it was a qualification. He saw it. Swami Vivekananda was a very knowledgeable man, even though he was his disciple. Scholarly, knowledgeable, speak in Sanskrit fluently. So, two things notice here. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did not want Vivekananda to be his clone. He didn't want him to be his clone. It's very important to note. And second, that Swamiji understood this factor, which Ramakrishna understood without studying anything, by studying and understanding Vedanta. So there are two kinds of people who have come to the same point. So there's a story about a professor who went to a Zen master and said, "Sir, please teach me how to attain Samadhi, Satori." Zen master said, "First have a cup of tea." So he brings a cup, puts it on the, Japanese are ceremonial in everything. And he starts pouring the tea. The cup gets full and the tea is flowing down the tablecloth. Man can't stop himself. He said, "Sir, the cup is overflowing." He says, he stops and he says, "Your cup, the head, is overflowing. How can I give you Zen? If I give you Zen, it will also flow out." Now, from the personal point of view, a person who has what we call Shraddha is a person who has discarded all the intellectual pretensions. Either he's innately like that or he's discovered it and says, "Hey, this is of no use, man. Throw it off." And for that, one type of person may read through many books to come there, to arrive there. Somebody may be, I think Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a special person. He was born like that. Some people are born like that. You cannot imitate that person. Well, you can see him, you can learn many things, and then you on your own become. It's not as if the realized world, if there is a realized world, is like one bed of the same flowers. Each is a different flower. So idea here is not to make all roses into marigolds or all marigolds into roses. Roses should be allowed to become good roses, and the marigold should be allowed to become a good marigold. I think Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is a real teacher who worked that way. I can say vouch for Babaji Maharaj. He had disciples among the Naga Babas who smoked up. But he would make them sit down and discuss matters with them. And I said, "Babaji, these fellows are..." he said, you go and spend 6 months with them. And he set me off. So Shraddha is when you see something and say, none of my intellectual explanations fit this. And then from that to discover that through my intellectual cerebral work, this cannot be touched. To reach that point, I might have to cerebrate a bit. Till you come there, no. Right? So when this happens, something happens inside one, which I would call as Shraddha. People usually translate it as devotion. Shraddha also means complete one-pointed attention. Shraddha.
So there is something from inside that is just saying that I should do it. It's not a blindfold kind of a thing that you're blindly following someone. No. It's something from inside. Absolutely. That this is it, kind of.
This is it. And then when you come for coming there, one needs to, it is as if there is a powerful magnet somewhere. And I'm a piece of iron and I want to become that magnet. I can't become that magnet because I'm small, but I can get some part of the magnetism into me. But as long as there is rust, that is not effective.
And it's not a cross-sectional, it's a longitudinal.
No. So I need to cut off that rust. Just cut off in various ways till that iron becomes pure. When the iron becomes pure, it goes and sticks to the magnet with no barrier, Shraddha.
So that takes me to the next question, and this is regarding your travels. You still travel a lot. You have traveled not just across India, throughout the world a lot. And then you did Walk of Hope, which started from the Vivekananda Rock, as we know of it, in Kanyakumari, and went up to Kashmir. You were invited to speak in the parliament as well. Now, with this experience of traveling the lengths and breadths across India, what do you think unites us? What is it that why we are this unity in diversity?
I think, according to me, as I've seen people in villages, in urban areas, cities, I've seen poor people who work in the farm, tribals. We walk through sit with them, have a cup of tea. I've also seen people who think they're powerful, politicians. What I've noticed is what has kept this country together, not country, this psyche of being a person of Bharat together, is not anything forceful or any militant effect. It's a inborn understanding that has come through several thousands of centuries, several hundreds, let's say, hundreds of, because some people have controversies about saying thousands, but anyway, hundreds of years of understanding the central truth, which has filtered down to us in many ways, even in popular folklore. We know that there are 44 crores of gods. Everybody can be worshipped. It's not as if we are put a blind and say, this is the only God I will worship. No. Therefore, if some other religion comes, unless it forces you to change to their point of view, one man would welcome it. If he's a Hindu, and that is what I mean, he would welcome it and he would say, this is nice, this is another way of looking at it, but I like this. So you look at India's history, whom many people have come, invaded. I would actually say that many of the invaders got colored by what they found here rather than the other way around.
That's absolutely right.
By force, they might have, like militant might and administrative, fine, I understand. Otherwise, in fact, something good which you can say about the Mughal invasion, this is for the first time there was an emperor for the whole of India sitting in Delhi, or before that Agra, but we didn't have a concept. They were all, I like that, not this, where each local thing has its own color. And what we call a Hindu, not Hindutva, that what we call a Hindu is that wide spectrum. It's like a rainbow. It starts here and ends. You don't know where this end disappears and where this end comes from. In the sky, if you look at the rain, it's like that. So I would say nothing can change this. You can try what you want. The mind is so resilient, it will go hit and come back. I've seen this.
So it's the resiliency of people of India that is what binds us together.
Today you can see it in technology also, the resiliency. Who is being hired for software and other things? Mostly.
Indians, yes.
So,
I think one point was Akbar, but before Akbar, I think hundreds of years ago, there was Ashoka was there who tried to bind the country together as well. Yeah, so that was there as well. I think we're getting to the close of our interview. One final question that I have before I end it. And do you think we need new scriptures? The reason why I ask that is our times have changed. And many new things have evolved. We as humans have evolved. And our understanding of the world has changed. And one such example is that most of our scriptures, if we look back, are men. There are hardly any women that are gurus.
Absolutely.
So do we need to redefine these scriptures? Do we need to write new Upanishads, new ending to the Vedas?
It may not be classified as the same as the Upanishads we already have, but we already have the seeds of the thought which are expressing in the Upanishad. They've been rare, but they were great rishis like Gargi. They were unknown in the Lingayat movement, Akka Mahadevi. You see, it is there. But now you're right. This is what I'm also trying to do. Change. Give women a chance to understand this. For some reason, they're not let into it. We will not discuss the reasons, but yes. So now, because if it gets into them, they can change the world. After all, the first influence on the child is the mother. Right? One point. The other is the days when we need to study the Upanishads, understand the truth, we have to go. Short periods of solitude are essential for thinking deeply. I understand that. Having said that, where you have to wear a special dress or you have to wear a special and live in these are gone. I think the human brain has now evolved enough to understand that we can live here, work here, and still find it. It has over the years. It was necessary then. But it is not necessary. So what we need today, not in summer, but other time, are gene-clad yogis who cannot be distinguished outside except by their behavior. The externals are not important. And so this is the trend we have to take now. And not to shut people up if they ask questions. It was not like that in the ancient period. It became like that somewhere along the line. Now we need to go back and say, I'm not saying go back into history, go back to the thought of saying, let's have it. See the Chandogya Upanishad. Rishi says to his son, have you understood the truth? He says, yes, I have understood the truth. He said, let me explain to you in a different way. You see the banyan tree, there is a seed lying, go pick it up. What do you see? I see the seed of the banyan tree. Open the skin. What do you see? I see the kernel of it. Open it. What do you see? I see little seeds inside, black seeds. Pick one of these and break it. You open it. What do you see? He says, I see nothing. He says, this whole banyan tree has come out of that nothing. This mode of communication should restart. I wouldn't say this is new. Like Jesus Christ, the wandering Parivrajak in Jerusalem said, this is all old wine in new bottles.
That's true, but I think people have stuck upon in the last few hundreds of thousands of years where there has been division and people who are powerful have really, really suppressed the other. And I think you are right, but I think more work needs to happen.
Very much work needs to be done. It's time that this is changed. See, look at the definition. Brahma vid Brahma eva bhavati. One who knows the Supreme Brahman is a Brahmana. Today, you are by birth. But it happens everywhere, not only among the Brahmins, but it happens everywhere. Film stars wants to put his son in as a film star. There may be more talented people outside. So we think the caste system is broken. There are many castes, business castes, political castes. Just looked at the spectrum. Okay? All three persons in a family bursting into tears, whatever. So these things are happening. So we need to change this. And the only way to change is to bring them back on this platform that, listen, primarily, we are actually no different from anybody else. We are one.
Yes. And I think that equality is where the future should be. It should be the present and it should have been the past. And I think most important.
We can't afford to lose the treasures. This is what I'm trying to say. And if this is the way it's going, it's be lost. We need to change it.
Change it, yeah. So before we end, what we usually do is ask a few rapid fire questions. If you don't mind, I'll ask them.
So the answer has to be also fast and short? No, I don't know. I'm just...
it's up to you. It can be as long as you want and short.
Okay.
So one childhood memory that sparks a joy in your mind right now.
One is most important, seeing Babaji under the jackfruit tree. I'm just giving you a direct answer.
Absolutely. That's what we're looking for. And this is something that may or may not be relevant, but person in history that you would like to go and meet.
I always wish, even though I've been told not to get attached, that Maheshwarnath Babaji lived still somewhere in his physical body, so that once in a year for 3 days I could go and see him.
And what does mindfulness mean to you?
Mindfulness to me means to be mindful of how you live in the outer world and being mindful of the inner thoughts. People have this problem that you sit down and meditate, you're mindful of the inner. But when you come out, you're not mindful of your behavior. If these don't go together, it's not going to happen.
And one artist that has inspired you, because I know you yourself are an artist, a great artist.
Amateur.
One artist that inspires you from a contemporary
what field?
Artist can be someone who's drawing, someone who's singing.
Shall I tell you?
Yes.
In dance, I adore Birju Maharaj, Kathak.
Beautiful, yes. I've seen him perform. I love Birju Maharaj.
Incomparable. You don't know that he's there on the stage. And as far as songs and music is concerned, I am great admirer of Drupad. So any mature Drupad singer, everybody says I'm singing Drupad, I would really appreciate that and put him up a notch. I don't want to go this rapid question. So this is some of the things. There are many classical dancers, but for me, this is personal. You asked me a personal question.
Absolutely, and that's what
we're not bringing down the level of any dance. I think a dance form is one of the most beautiful because there you actually use your mind, your body, your action, your everything, expression to depict something. It's a bringing out of the inner to present to the outward world. Why? The king of dancers is Nataraj, Shiva.
And one final question. You mentioned Drupad and I believe you love classical singing as well. Anything that you can sing for our listeners? It can be a mantra as well. Whatever you would like. We would love to listen to your voice.
I can't sing right now because I'm not such an expert in singing Drupad. But even a Vedic chant is set to a certain music. You know why the Gurudwaras, many things, including Kabir, have been saved because they're set in a raga. And they're called ragis because they sing in a raga. So in the same way, everything has a sound, like the Upanishad. If you go to the Taittiriya, there is a Shanti part for the Taittiriya. It's very interesting. Even if you don't know what it means, you may know, but somebody doesn't know what it means, it has an effect because of it. Like, Shanno mitra sham varunaha shanno bhavatvaryama shanna indro brihaspati shanno vishnurur kramanamo brahmane namaste vayu tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi tvameva pratyaksham brahma vadishyami hridam vadishyami satyam vadishyami Tanmam avatu tadvaktaram avatu mam avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti. See, it's not just you're just saying something like, it's measured. And that measurement, it's a rhythm vadishyami. I kind of derive the meaning of the English word rhythm from rhythm vadishyami. You know, without rhythm, even knowledge, anything becomes useless. Why music? You can simply sing a song. If it doesn't have rhythm, what people say, okay, this is Avaswaram.
Thank you so much. I think that's a great way for us to end this or bring this interview to close. Thank you so much for being a part on
I
our
want
show.
to thank you to bring this out to me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, whoever has tuned in to listen to our show. We are available on iTunes and Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Please remember to rate us or share our podcast with your friends and family. Thank you so much.
Thank you.